AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It is AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. We are not in the Raising Cane studio. We are actually at the DraftKings Sportsbook here at the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles. We appreciate our friends here for hosting us. Just low-key, if you have not been here to the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles, plan a trip for some reason. Hang out by the pool. Pool is fire. They got great restaurants in here. This DraftKings Sportsbook is amazing. Spend a day here in Southwest Louisiana. Awesome spot. We're so grateful for the partnership and our friends here at the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles. Okay, Brian Driscoll from Irish Illustrated is going to join us in about a little more than an hour. We're going to talk to you about Junior Tuihalamaka, the defensive end that has committed to LSU today. If you haven't heard that story, this broke within the last hour. His agent confirmed it. He was part of the Louisiana TRO lawsuit. He's now committed to LSU. I think that, look, one of my favorite sayings, y'all know it, actions speak louder than words. Watch what people do. Don't listen to what they say. And sometimes, it's very obvious. And when you had Junior Tuihalamaka in this lawsuit and Jack Pyburn, and we've talked about it as well, it illustrates where they see a need. And, one of my takeaways coming out of this fall camp is we can be really excited about the ceiling for this defensive line and what some of these players can and eventually will be. But it is also very fair to mention right now that you do not have a lot of skins on the wall. Lane Kiffin was asked on Thursday specifically about Dominick McKinley and Steph Green. Now, I know we're talking about an edge with Junior Tuihalamaka from Notre Dame, and these are tackles, but this is what Lane said when he was asked about McKinley and Steph Green.
Dom's had a really good camp. Really kind of challenged him at spring. Didn't tell you what I told him, didn't really have a good spring, in my opinion, of what he should for his size and his ability, and really has stepped up, especially in the last probably week and a half. And it's been great to see. He's run with our ones and done a really good job. Steph has battled some injuries, which he's done a lot in his career. So he's flashed, but we've told him that we need more consistency. And now as he's getting healthy, we'd expect that.
Okay. Lane Kiffin said point blank, they told Dom McKinley he wasn't good enough in the spring. Steph Green has battled injuries. They need him to be more consistent. When I've said it over and over, you can be so fired up about Geralds and Anderson at tackle, and I am. I think they're going to be awesome players. But you keep hearing people say, man, you're set for the next 3 years. Yeah, but you're also starting 2 true freshmen because you don't have veterans that are capable of beating out those freshmen right now. So look at the edge position, where you've got Prince Wiluman-Mielen, preseason first-team All-SEC, number 1 edge in the portal, led Ole Miss last year in sacks, TFLs, 5th-year player, tons of experience, check. He checks every box. On the other side, you got Jordan Ross, who hasn't started a game in 2 years. And then after that, you lose Gabe Relaford, Damian Shanklin's not there anymore, so you're talking about Dylan Carpenter, who's been a rotational backup for 3 years, and Lamar Brown, who's a true freshman. Now, I'm fired up about Lamar Brown. I think he's going to be a 15-year NFL vet when the time comes, but he's a freshman. When you go and add a guy that's played 4 seasons of college football with 54 career games played, 7 starts, that gives you a grown-ass man who's played a lot of college football, who gives you a veteran presence in that group who's played a ton of football where you don't have that right now. So, yes, that makes an awful lot of sense. It's also why, you'd love to add Jack Pyburn as well, because Uman Mielen and Ross, in some respects, y'all, are the same guy. They're like the boundary edge, the ones that are the edge rushers. They're not field edges that can help you against the run. That's not really their role. They're the get up field and attack the quarterback and make plays in space. Pyburn, his PFF grade last year against the run was an 85. It's funny to me, a lot of people said I wasn't impressed with Pyburn. It's because the sack numbers weren't there, but they didn't ask him to do that last year. Would have loved to have seen that bigger. Jack also everybody deals with injuries, but Jack Pyburn was dealing with injuries. I don't know if you saw, but he committed to playing in the Senior Bowl and then didn't play in the Senior Bowl and then didn't work out at the Combine. Why do you think that is? Guy was battling injuries. So it, of course, was going to limit his productivity at LSU also. All that to say, it's clear where, it's so rare, maybe not just rare, literally altogether unique, that you can go through fall camp. You can go through fall camp, identify your weaknesses after fall camp, and then add veteran players who played 4 years of college football at positions of weakness. That's literally what is happening right now with guys like that. Now, the other point is on the offensive line, where Lane Kiffin on Thursday was at, your first five, I think we know are set right now. Left to right, it's Seton, Bordelon, Braylon Moore, Aluba, and then Weston Davis. That's your starting five. And by the way, look at your interior linemen. Braylon Moore, fifth-year senior. Aluba, fifth-year senior. Bo Bordelon, fifth-year senior. Old, veteran players in the middle. Jordan Seton might very well be a top 10 pick. Weston Davis, former five-star, has not played well during his career, but has played a lot. You need to be much better there. But what about after that? What about your depth? You know the word Lane Kiffin used to describe the offensive line depth? Listen.
It's a concern and something that, is high on our list of concerns right now. And so we've got to continue to, get guys better. They got to improve, and so that we feel more confident with that. I guess before yesterday, normally we'd say our team is our team, and so it's what we got. But I guess that potentially changes yesterday. But other than that, we got to get the guys better.
Is there an offensive lineman among those 16 players in Louisiana that got the TRO? Could LSU be looking to add a veteran lineman? I don't know. Listen, one of the things that I would compliment Lane Kiffin on is when they went into the portal, they had a decision to make about the offensive line. And you had a bunch of dudes that had played a lot of football. You had Tyree Adams and DJ Chester and Cohen Eccles and Paul Mabenga and all the guys we've talked about a bunch. Ori Williams, guys that had played a lot of football. They just hadn't played well. And so the staff comes in and they look at this and they go, okay, do we retain these guys that have played a lot but haven't played well in hopes that they get better, or do we go remake the room? And they decided to blow it up and remake the room. And so it's interesting to me, and I think telling, that after blowing up that room, 3 of your starters right now are guys they retained. Which means the guys that you went and got weren't good enough to beat out Bo Bordelon or Weston Davis, which I think is disappointing for someone like Devin Harper. Listen, I don't cover Ole Miss, but everyone I know that does said Devin Harper was going to be the starting right tackle at Ole Miss this year. And he hasn't won a job. You look at a guy like William Satterwhite, who we've seen come in 2 years at Tennessee. We've seen him play center, right tackle, left guard. They're moving him all around, trying to find that spot. I think that's what Lane Kiffin's speaking to. They went out, remade that room, and they're hoping that their depth is better. The thing that gives me encouragement is I believe in Eric Wolford and James Craig. When we go out there, we get to see, and they are much more physical at practice. I think that unit is going to be more physical than the unit a year ago. And that's going to make them better. How much better, I don't know. But you really got to stay healthy, because I think the first five is going to be a really good unit. But Lane's saying there, the depth after those first five right now is a concern. How much better can they get? Time will tell. And maybe maybe here in the next 10 to 14 days, it could add another body. We'll see. Okay, it's after further review. Thanks for hanging out with us here on this Friday edition of AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. We're at the DraftKings Sportsbook in Lake Charles at the Golden Nugget. Love telling you about Evermore. Before I left Baton Rouge today, I made sure I grabbed my 64-ounce bottle of Evermore. I got work to do. I'm only about 12 ounces down on this thing. But I grabbed my 64-ounce bottle of Evermore because I drink Evermore every single day. Stay hydrated, y'all, especially with this heat the way it is. Pop into great local retailers. You'll find Evermore. You can find it near you. Go to the website. Type in your zip code. The store locator function, it'll tell you the Evermore, the location near you where you can buy Evermore, or you can buy it online at evamore.com, EVAMOR, evamore.com. Okay, y'all, it's after further review. We're glad you're with us. We are going to knock out a quick break. I think we did add our buddy Brian Driscoll is going to join us in hour 3 to talk about Junior Tuihalamaka. When we come back, we'll shift gears briefly. Scott Shanle is going to jump aboard with us. Saints are going to play the Rams on Saturday, the second preseason game here this preseason for the Hoodats. What are we keeping an eye on? We'll ask Shanle when we continue. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Love to tell you about our friends over at Darren James & Associates, brokered by LPT Realty, because I love telling you about someone who gives exceptional customer service. I recently had a friend who was listing their home, and they had already hired a realtor, but they had a question about comps and property values. The realtor they hired wasn't really familiar with, because that realtor is based in a different market than the locale that they're selling in. So they called Darren James. And Darren spent 2 hours with my friend going through comps and pricing and all this stuff, knowing full well they already have a realtor and he's not getting the listing. But that's just Darren. That's the level of customer service that Darren James provides. It's not a liner. It's not cliche. He loves helping people. He loves what he does. That shines through everything he does, and it's why he gets results. So if you need to sell your home, call Darren James and get your home sold.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
Shout out to our friends over at River Parish Contractors, rpcontractors.com. Whether you need that industrial construction job or you're looking for work, you want River Parish Contractors, rpcontractors.com, rpcontractors.com. A record-setting Q1. I was talking to my buddy Ronnie. A record-setting Q1, record-setting Q2. They're pacing for a record-setting Q3, which means they got a ton of work and they need you. They're hiring heavy equipment operators for jobs in Geismar and Norco. Right now, over at River Parish Contractors, they are looking for iron workers, pipe fitters, crane operators for a job in Geismar as well. Y'all, they got jobs on both sides of the river. You'll be home with your family every night. They got as much overtime as you want to work. Day shift, night shift. You got to call today. Call Big Jake, 318-547-1000, 318-547-1000 at River Parish Contractors.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Have you decided who will start Saturday?
Still talking through that. Yep.
Zach went today. Is there
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, we'll work through that. Both those guys are playing some good ball.
Kellen Moore asked what quarterback was going to start preseason game number 2. Non-committal there. Let's see if Scott Shanle has an idea. Former Saint linebacker, Super Bowl champion, good enough to spend a couple minutes with us here. Hey, Scott, thanks as always, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Thought who you'd like to see start preseason game number 2 at quarterback?
I think, after the first game, I think you got to go with Zach Wilson. I think he looked the most consistent, the most playmaking. And I think, with only 3 preseason games, usually the guys who are going to make the roster don't usually play much in the third game. I think you gave Spencer the first start. I think you give Zach this start. You got to, I think when you look at the quarterback situation, this happened to the Raiders when they're trying to look at Mendoza. The first preseason game, he's playing with the 2s. So you want to see these guys play with, the 2s and 3s and see how they respond. But I think Zach's probably earned the right to start this game.
Does it really, I hate to say does it matter? I think everything matters to a degree, but how much does it matter who starts at quarterback or relative to how many reps they get in the game?
Well, I think this day and age, I think it does matter with the backup quarterback position. You see a lot of these guys. You see a lot of teams every offseason when free agency strikes. These teams are fighting and paying a lot of money to back up quarterbacks because you lose your starting quarterback. You have to have a guy who can come in and just manage the ship, manage the game is at minimum what you want from your backup quarterback. And I think the reason I feel like the organization is trending more towards Zach being the backup right now after that first preseason game is because this is no slight against Spencer. Spencer's had a lot of opportunities to play. He's had a lot of starts for being a fifth-round pick so far, but you never really see those highs that you want to see out of a starting caliber or even a good backup quarterback. I think he's midline and then he makes a mistake. He's midline and he makes a mistake. So I think this organization really is trying to find a serviceable backup behind Chuck.
Scott, what is a veteran's mindset going into the second preseason game? I suppose it's different based on where your stat is on the roster, but for the guys that are expected to play against the Rams, where are they with two preseason games to go?
Yeah, it used to be 4 preseason games, and it was kind of all the starters. Game 2 was always kind of the dress rehearsal for the season, and then by the time you got to the 4th preseason game, it was really just all the backups, guys trying to make a roster and putting out film for other teams across the leagues or trying to make practice squads. So I think the way camp is now, you get that first preseason game. Maybe a lot of teams in the second preseason game will play some more starters, but by the third preseason game anymore, nobody's playing any starters. So you have a limited opportunities, and these preseason games anymore, they're not for I don't even know if guys knock rust off anymore with how little they play if you're a starter. These games are really for guys trying to find a way to make the roster, show a team that they can be a solid backup on their team. Or if you have position battles. I think the other thing you use 1 or 2 preseason games for is position battles because you got to get looks at guys outside of practice and see who. Some guys are just gamers. Some guys play better when the lights are on, so you got to find that out as well.
Did you like playing preseason games?
I think a couple preseason games is fine because, like I said, you knock some of that rust off as a veteran player and you get ready. But the speed of the game is not what it is during the regular season game. You're trying to get yourself in that mindset of playing a regular season game. But it beats practicing against each other for a month. Even these inter-squad practices are almost like preseason games that a lot of fans just don't get to see unless they actually go attend. So I think you need some of it. I think it's a little bit of a dress rehearsal for the real thing.
Former Saint linebacker Scott Shanle, good enough to spend a couple minutes with us here on the show. You mentioned position battles. Any position battles in particular you're interested in keeping an eye on Saturday?
Yeah, I think when you look at really on this team, the injury bug has bitten lately. So there's going to be guys, George Tyson going down, Kamara going down. There are going to be guys who make the team as a running back or a wide receiver, at least for the first month of the season while these guys get healthy. So guys are playing for roster spots. But I think, to me, probably maybe a little bit biased with being a linebacker. I'm kind of watching the Pete Warner, Danny Stutzman, seeing how they utilize these linebackers. Anytime you lose a guy like DeMario Davis, you bring Caden Elsack, and I think that was a great signing. I think it was one of the most underrated signings of the offseason because he's a guy who grew up in the organization and knows exactly what the organization expects. I think it'll be a seamless transition for him to step in for DeMario. And I think just finding out the rotation they're going to use at these inside linebacker spots, to me, is kind of one of the intriguing things I've been watching throughout the preseason.
You know, Scott, I'm trying not to overreact to the injuries, but I'm admittedly completely overreacting to the injuries. Where do you see all these guys going down? Unfortunately, Brzee for the season, Dylan Radins for the season, Tyson for 2 months, Kamara for a month. What do you think when you see all these injuries in camp?
Well, I think it's a combination, and I think anytime you ask old guys, what it is, I don't think the players are getting bigger, faster, stronger. I do think that, but I also think there's something to not having the OTAs and the off-season practices as many as we used to have, and then having real training camp. There's an acclimation period to these guys' bodies. They have to hit. They have to get after each other. They have to lean on each other. And a lot of these teams, just because of the way the CBA has been negotiated, there's not a whole lot of contact going on anymore. And guys, when they get into, you look at all these injuries, most of these injuries are happening when they get out of their comfort zone and you can't brother-in-law it against your own teammate. They're going on inter-squad practices. Now you have to amp it up because nobody wants to look bad. Or you go to preseason games where you're playing at game speed, and that's where all these injuries are happening. I just think the players' bodies are not getting acclimated enough to game speed and the physicality of the game before those plays happen. And it's frustrating. It really is.
Former Saint linebacker Scott Shanle is with us. We talked about some of the position battles there. Is there anything else, Scott, in week two? Understand, I know you played in air with 4 preseason games. There's 3, so we're at the halfway point. Is there anything else, aside from like just a position battle, that you think is worth the listener keeping an eye on when they watch the game tomorrow?
Well, I think we probably hit the most intriguing parts of this team. Most of the roster spots, the starting spots on this team, I think most Saints fans can kind of pencil in who they believe are going to be the starters. So I think when you look at the backup quarterback position, it is still playing out. I think after this game, they'll probably have an idea of exactly who they're penciling in at number 2. The inside linebacker position with Warner and Stutzman, how that's going to play out, how that rotation is going to work again. And then you just want to continue to see a young secondary. Last year, a young secondary continued to emerge, and those young guys continue to make plays. Because to me, you look at the back half of last year, Shuck was obviously the storyline. Came in, made some great plays, played confident, but the defense played as good as any team in the league after the Carolina game. So can the defense continue to kind of carry that torch and help this offense get acclimated? Because a lot of those injuries, besides Breezy, which is a huge loss, are happening on the offensive side of the ball. So the defense is always ahead of the offense. So you need this defense to be ahead of the offense by the time game 1 rolls around, because there's 2 tough games out the gate.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Scott, your time very much appreciated. If I asked you right now at this point in camp, another week of the preseason after Saturday, what's the biggest concern on this team? What would you say?
Biggest concern is I just think there's a lot of great pieces, and I think the Saints are kind of the storyline when you look at the national media. Everybody expects this team to compete for the NFC South based on the way they finished last year. To me, is how do you play now that there's expectations back? I think there's expectations back on Shuck. Can you be the same player and better than you were at the end of last year? Chase Young, can you stay healthy and continue to be that defensive player that a lot of people think can be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year type candidate? It's about staying hungry. And I think it's been a while since the national media and the national landscape has been hyped up about what the New Orleans Saints football team can bring. And can you keep that chip on your shoulder? Because you haven't won anything yet, and you may not start the season 2-0. You start with 2 tough games. So can you stay hungry and stay motivated when everybody's telling you it's your time to shine?
He is Scott Shanle, former Saint linebacker. Good to spend a couple of minutes with us here. Scott, we always appreciate the time, man. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
It's our pleasure. It's after further review. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Remember, at Lee Michaels, they will never sell you a man-made or a lab diamond. I mean, what are you like? It's a technology play. Like, what are you actually getting? I mean, is there actually any value in that? When you go to Lee Michaels, you are only going to buy one of the most beautiful natural diamonds in the world. Mr. Scott goes on these diamond buying trips to India to bring the absolute best product back here to Louisiana. And because they're buying for 9 stores, they have great buying power. So they're going to be able to get you not only a great selection, but also a great price. And I always say at Lee Michaels, if they don't have what you want, they'll find it. If they can't find it, they'll make it. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. 9 locations in all. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, and online at lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. I am going to give you, before we get out of here today, actually coming up in the 3rd hour, my what to watch for the Saints and Rams, the things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. It is really... But just candidly, with the injuries has made it challenging here in this training camp for the New Orleans Saints to be excited. There was so much excitement coming into camp because of what Scott said, the hope that Shuck takes the next step this year and all the weapons they added on the offensive side, and maybe the defense, even if it just replicates its performance. I mean, the defense was 9th in the NFL in total defense. That's plenty good enough if your offense catches up. But with the injuries, it's muted some of that excitement. So my real sincere hope is just get through the next 2 preseason games as healthy as you can and get ready really after those first 2 tough road games, week 1 at Detroit, week 2 at Baltimore, to come home and win 3 straight. Because that I think is going to be the key to setting up this season for the expectations a lot of us have. It's going to be being 3-2 through those first 5 games, getting through those first 5 with your head above water. All right, it's After Further Review. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Friday edition of AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center. We are here at the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles, and glad to have you hanging out with us here. Let me knock out a quick break. When we come back, someone who actually has pretty high hopes for these New Orleans Saints is Matt Jacobs, sports betting analyst, has a few interesting takes on the Saints. We'll get to that next on AFR.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. At Glow Resources, they are a complete employer solution. See, at Glow Resources, they don't work for the employee. They're not I always tell you what they are by telling you what they aren't. At Glow Resources, they are not a temp staffing agency. Glow Resources helps you, the business owner, you, the ops manager, the hiring manager, the HR manager. If you're the person responsible for finding the right people in your business, Glow Resources helps you find those people. And they do it for skilled blue-collar labor or any type of office job all over the country and all over the world. Like, this was just one listed today, a pipe layer and laborer in Geismar. They're looking for an excavator operator in Sanford, North Carolina. I can go down the list and tell you about the dozens and dozens and dozens of companies all over the country. There's a company in Baton Rouge looking for a chief financial officer. Glow Resources is helping them find that employee. They can help you as well. So check them out online at glowresources.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Saints will play their second preseason game on Saturday, 3 o'clock Central Time out in L.A., SoFi against the Rams. Trying to put the finishing pieces on this roster, trying to stay healthy, and maybe, just maybe, take a crack at getting back in the playoffs for the first time since Drew Brees retired after the COVID season. The guy who thinks they got a good shot to do it is Matt Jacob, longtime sports betting analyst. He writes for Yahoo and other outlets, and he's got a piece up right now where he thinks the Saints win in the South might be one of the best bets you could place here preseason, and Matt's good enough to join us on the show. Hey, Matt, thanks for the time, man. How are you?
Good, fellow Matt. Doing great. Thanks for having me on. And, yeah, you said one key thing in your intro there that it's everything with the Saints, and that's health, the healthy part. There's just not a lot of wiggle room with this team, but I like the pieces that are in place.
Okay. I admittedly am an unapologetic homer when it comes to the Saints. I try in this job to pride myself on being objective.
Got it.
I had them winning 5 games a year ago. They won 6, so I feel like I got a good finger on the pulse. I like this team, its ceiling, to be 9-8 and win a bad division and make the playoffs, host a wild card round playoff game. Am I nuts?
No, you're not nuts, especially the bad division part. That was pretty much what I wrapped up my analysis with in the article that you referenced. Last year, a trio of 8 and 9 teams tied for first place. It's just not going to take much. I expect the division to be a hot mess once again. No offense to Saints and Saints fans, but it just means that the division's up for grabs. And it's been a division that maybe not, the Bucs had a run there, obviously, for a while. There was times when it was like worst to first team every year in the NFC South. So, I think the Saints, what I really, really like about them, and I know momentum isn't what it used to be season to season because of free agency and whatnot, and the schedule's kind of being more balanced. But I love the way the Saints finished last year. Under rookie coach Matt, when they start out bad, and the Saints started out bad, they were 2-11. Usually seems like that can just crumble and give up and quit and say this coach isn't the right guy. They didn't quit. That says a lot about Kellen Moore. It says a lot about the character of the team. They go on and win 4 of their final 6 games. And as you know, they easily could have won all 6 in a row. They lost 21-17 to Miami in week 13, 19-17 to Atlanta in the finale. I love the way Tyler Shaw played down the stretch. Again, a guy who started out rough, as rookies are wont to do, hung in there, averaged exactly 260 passing yards a game with 9 touchdowns and 4 interceptions over the Saints' final 8 games. You got to like that progress. I do not like what's behind him. He has to stay upright and he has to show progress for this bet to hit.
How much so if I have one reason for pause with Tyler Shuck, it's they went 5-4 in his starts, but they beat the Jets and they beat the Titans and they beat a bunch of bad teams.
Okay.
Any reason why we think that might be different when, say, they open against the Lions and the Ravens on the road, and we know they're going to play Pittsburgh and Paris, and they're going to play at Cincinnati? I mean, there are some at Chicago. There are some spots on the schedule that are really tough.
There are definitely, and I'm a big fan of early season success, and that could be a hiccup for the Saints because those are two tough games to open the season with. No question about it. They're obviously huge underdogs to Detroit in Week 1. They'll be the same with Baltimore, but even they can sustain those losses again because they're playing in a weak division. They get six games against teams that they could beat. They could lose all 6, obviously, but they could win all 6 of those games. So I think that again, that where they are in their division, again, the health factor is going to be huge, and the defense has to kind of carry the load once again. I was really impressed with the way that they played last year, and they finished with some bad teams, but the Saints were a bad team. Bad team being a bad, it's still a victory. It's something to build on, right? So I like that positive. I also like, the second year of a coach who had some late season success. You got the full off season to work with these guys again, get a little bit more of your package installed, get them to learn it. So I just think the Saints are in a good position in that regard. Like you, I don't expect this team to go 12-5 or 11-6, but it has a chance to finish above 500. As we saw last year, maybe you don't even need to finish above 500 to win the division.
You also said that you think this division will be a hot mess. So I kind of agree. Is there any way, any path you see where the division is not a hot mess?
If two teams rise above, and I think one of those teams would have to be Tampa Bay, and I guess it could be Carolina. I mean, it depends. I'm still not sold on Bryce Young. I wasn't sold from the get-go. He's certainly matured a lot last year, almost beat the Rams in the playoffs. Got to like that progress. I think people are a little bit too high on Tampa Bay right now. And as far as the Falcons are concerned, this could be the year, but this is going to be Falcons years like 3 years in a row, and they haven't gotten it done. I love the Falcons. Could never understood for 3 years. It was like everyone's buying the Falcons. I'm like, what am I missing? And then early January, I'm like, I wasn't missing anything. The Falcons were not that good, and maybe this is the year with the new coach that they make a leap. I'm just not sold on their quarterback spot either. The defense is going to be good, but so yeah, it's a possibility this division could be more competitive. I can't be possibly less competitive than it was last year. A lot of that obviously has to do with schedule and where teams fall and things like that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It feels like in the not too distant past, we were talking about the NFC West being an absolute abomination, and now they're awesome. It's the NFL is cyclical in nature, and it's funny how that happens. But all right, one more for you, not related to the South. You also have Denver and New England missing the playoffs. From AFC Championship game to missing the playoffs, why?
I just expect serious regression from both of these teams. I will be stunned if I go 0 for 2 here. Maybe I go 1 for 1, but if I go 0 for 2, I'll be stunned. I mean, these teams last year, Denver went 11-2 in one-score games. They had one of the top 5 healthiest teams in football by one metric. The Patriots were even healthier. The Patriots they won 13 of their 14 games against teams that didn't make the playoffs. Both these teams have much tougher schedules, especially the Broncos out of the gate. They go to Kansas City, then they get the Jaguars and Rams at home. Then they go to the 49ers and Chargers, and they face the defending champions Seahawks at home. They could be 1-5 by mid-October, in my opinion, right? And as far as the Patriots go, I'm not the only one who thought they were a fraud last year. They finally got exposed in the Super Bowl. 14-3 is 14-3. Can't take anything away from them. But this team, 2 consecutive years before that, was 4-13. I don't think Mike Vrabel makes that much of a difference. Then there's that whole scandal, which I'm not so sure isn't going to find its way to have an impact on the field in some way, shape, or form. And again, if either of these teams get off to rough starts, and Denver certainly could, I think they both could miss the playoffs. Look at last year. Who saw the Chiefs and the Ravens missing the playoffs? Nobody.
He is Matt Jacobs, sports betting analyst. Get his stuff over at Yahoo. It's a great piece up, and he kind of likes the Saints to win the division. It's worth holding that ticket. I couldn't agree with you more.
Matt, it's good value, too. That's the other reason, too. The plus 270 is good value.
I was going to say, so plus 270, I mean, golly, that is a tasty, tasty number. I'll hold that ticket. Matt, we appreciate it, man. We'll catch up down the line. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Matt.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. It's After Further Review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. We're brought to you by our friends over at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades. Relief Windows, ReliefWindows.com. It's 96 degrees. You know what happens when it's 96 degrees? Your AC pumps all day. Well, when you have costly air leaks, it means your AC never catches up. So your energy bills go up. You want to control those energy bills? Install energy-efficient replacement windows from Relief Windows. Every window, measure twice, install once, custom-made for the exact specification of your home to reduce those costly air leaks, to keep the hot air out, the cool air in, and lower your energy bills. So in time, this investment into your home pays for itself, and you're going to get credit on your home's resale value as well. It's Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. Oh, yeah, they do shutters too. And shades. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. All right, it's After Further Review. We're going to come back, wrap up hour number 2. Muse will have Tigers in the pros. And then we got a busy third hour straight ahead as well. We are going to be joined by Brian Driscoll, who covers Notre Dame. If you're, we went round and round with Brian back in the day when LSU hired Brian Kelly, but glad we kept his number. And we'll talk to Brian coming up here in about 30 minutes from right now. Want to get some perspective on junior Tui Halamaka. If you missed it, defensive end, just finished his 4th season at Notre Dame, was not in an NFL training camp. So was not trying to make an NFL roster. But with the whole 5-for-5 ruling, he was part of the injunction, the TRO, granted to those 16 players earlier this week in Louisiana, which gives him eligibility, and he committed to LSU today. Very obvious to see why he was part of that injunction and why others are as well. So we'll see what others may follow, but we'll get sort of a sense of who junior Tui Halamaka is as a player from Brian Driscoll in about 30 minutes from right now. Okay, quick break. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 2. Muse will have Tigers in the pros. We'll also hear from Charlie Weiss, who met with reporters earlier today. A ton to do. Stay with us. It's AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. You know what to do. Do what injured people in our state have done for 30 years. Get Gordon and get it done. And right now, design your Get Gordon billboard. Oh, yeah. Get all the rules at the website. GetGordon.com/billboards. 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 There's an adult division and a kids division. You can win up to $2,000 in prizes from Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys if your design is chosen. And, of course, your design could be seen on a billboard on the side of the interstate. How cool is that? Go to any of their social media accounts as well. You'll see all the rules and regulations, but log on to getgordon.com/billboards, getgordon.com/billboards to enter the Gordon McKernan Billboard Design Competition. Getgordon.com/billboards. Get Gordon and get it done. Check out Amigo Owls, y'all, from Brandon and Mackenzie Landry, of course, who brought you Supper Club. Their latest concept is Amigo Owls, Highway 30 in St. Gabriel. So if you're leaving LSU, shout out to all the new LSU students, by the way. You're looking for your new spot. Amigo Owls. Go south on Nicholson, leaving campus, going south on Nicholson, past U Club, about a quarter mile on your left. Just look for the yellow truck. You'll see Amigo Owls. Now, I understand. Maybe you live in South Baton Rouge. Maybe you live in Gonzales. Maybe you live in Ascension. Maybe you live in Bocage. Maybe you live in a completely different part of town that's far and you don't want to drive. Great. I got a solution. Amigo Owls has the third-party delivery apps now. So punch up Uber Eats or DoorDash and have those high-quality Mexican ingredients, delicious flavors delivered, even their exquisite margaritas with great ingredients. It isn't just sugar water and bad tequila. They're delicious. Check it out. It's Amigo Owls. Make it this weekend, Amigo Owls.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
We'll get to Tigers and the Pros here in just a quick second. Charlie Weis did meet with reporters today, and this is the first time that Charlie Weis has spoken into a microphone since he was hired at LSU, and it'll be the only time we get to talk to him. Lane doesn't let coordinators speak to the media. And Charlie Weis was asked if he ever considered staying with Ole Miss during that whole drama with the back and forth.
Yeah, I think just right now I'm just so focused on being here. That feels like that whole saga and everything that went down, it feels like it put about 10 years on my life. So I'm just so happy to be here now, fired up. I love our players. It's been a great group to work with. So really that's the main focus right now, is just staying on track with that.
I don't blame him at all for answering the way he did as you're 2 weeks from the opener. I will say, though, when you don't ever have the opportunity to ask the offensive coordinator a question when he was at the center of a gigantic story 8 months ago, when he was literally going back and forth with the playoff team and then his new team. I mean, day to day, there were times we told you, like, Charlie Weis was in the office recruiting, and then he was on a plane to Ole Miss for practice and on a plane back to LSU throughout that whole process. Like, that's the downside of never having the opportunity to ask the guy questions. When you finally do, he's going to be asked some of those. And he was asked also, by the way, why he decided ultimately to leave Ole Miss and choose Baton Rouge.
Number one, Coach Kiffin, right? I mean, he believed in me at a very early age, and when probably a lot of people wouldn't take a chance on a young coach, and he did. And so I do feel I owe a lot to him for my career and the places that he's hired me. And so I think that's definitely the number one factor. And then the other thing too is just LSU. It's a dream place to be. Growing up watching college football, being at Alabama when I was really got my first job there with Coach Kiffin, playing at LSU at night. I mean, I think this environment's the coolest environment in all of sports to go play in. And so just the thought of playing here, and that's our home crowd, was kind of gave me chills.
Yeah, he talked about, obviously that was the 24, the overtime game. But Lane Kiffin a day ago, in a preparation of knowing we were going to talk to Charlie Weis today, was asked about Charlie Weis and meeting him and their journey together, which is a story I'm sure at some point Lane has told, but it's not something I had heard and you might find interesting.
He was brought to our attention. There's a guy named Eric Keesaw that had been at when we were at Alabama, that had been at Kansas with Charlie's dad, and Charlie was just a probably student on the staff hanging around and helping out at Kansas, and he just said, hey, I think you'd really like this guy. We had a spot open. The guy's a genius, and I just think you'd really love finding this guy at this age. And came on an interview and did great. I've told the story before, to photographic memory, that I was told about, and I challenged it with an ID and credit card at dinner, and then brought it up the next day, and he could remember all of it. And so it's just been a really cool story. And him and I talk all the time about some things you think are bad or good, and some things you think are good or bad. If you reserve judgment, eventually they may be opposite of what you think. So we've had where he's left me. I actually brought him to FAU with me, and then he left after a couple weeks and went with Sark to the Falcons, and I brought him back. And then in a way I left him. I didn't bring him to Ole Miss. His wife holds that against me at times. But it all worked out, and then we brought him back, and almost lost him again in this last transition. And so really cool that came back to us.
It's so interesting just listening to Lane Kiffin so often now. And I've said this on multiple platforms, so forgive me if you've heard me say this. I'm going to repeat it now for those who haven't heard me say it. When you cover a team on a day-to-day basis, like, part of your job is, like, anytime there is media access, when you cover that team, you listen to everything. So I've heard every word that Lane Kiffin has spoken into a microphone for the last 8 months. Every press conference, every interview, everything he's done, I've listened to all of it. Many instances, cut it, dissected it, whatever. And so you start to have these ruminations and these ideas and thoughts. And one of the things I'll tell you definitively about Lane Kiffin is very clear when he wants to talk about something and when he doesn't want to talk about something. Because there are times when he will give you, I think there were 3 answers at a press conference last week that he gave that cumulatively totaled about 10 seconds. And then he can talk about Charlie Weis for a minute and a half and be really detailed and thoughtful, and it's very interesting to listen to. And I think for a guy that is labeled, and probably rightly in some instances, as transactional and not relational, I think it was interesting to hear Lane Kiffin, who seems to have a very sincere and deep affection for Charlie Weis. So that was cool to hear. All right, it's after further review. Musso, Tigers and the Pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
Gage Jump took the mound for the A's on a Thursday against the Kansas City Royals. He was roughed up a good bit in that one. 4 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned for Jump. Also walked 3 in that game. Out of the game after just 86 pitches. It was his 8th loss of the season as the A's fell 6-2 to Kansas City. To minor league baseball, Anthony Ianson, he was on the bump for AA Chesapeake. Of course, that's now in the Orioles organization. He was phenomenal. Once again, 7 innings, 1 earned run, didn't walk anybody, and punched out 8. His season ERA now down to 1.93. While Ianson was spectacular, his team was not. They didn't score a run, so Ianson got a tough luck loss. He's now 6-1 on his minor league season. Jared Jones, he's in high A ball, of course. Grasshoppers over there in the in high A ball. He went 2 for 3 in the game. Both of those were singles. Did drive in a run in the game as well. It was his 56th RBI. Also drew a walk. Jones, 307 on the year, the 56 RBI, and he's also up to 16 homers. He's been fantastic at the high A level. See if promotion maybe isn't in his future, if not towards the end of the minor league season here, but maybe the start of the next one after spring training. And then Angel Reese in the WNBA was another double-double for Angel. 20 points. How about a perfect 9 for 9 from the field, including 2 of 2 from beyond the arc. Every shot Angel put up went in. 20 points in the 10 rebounds. Also 8 assists. Just missed the triple-double, and the Atlanta Dreams scored a massive blowout victory over the Los Angeles Sparks, 124-88. That is Tigers in the Pros.
Presented by Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Tell you every day, do business with someone you know. That's me and Terrio and Tilly, our great staff, and our new partner, Drew Brees. Why wouldn't you do business with Drew Brees? Like, for real. I mean, he's a literal Pro Football Hall of Famer, the greatest, most influential athlete in the history of the state of Louisiana, is our partner at Parish Construction and Roofing. So if you need a roof repair, replacement, commercial, residential, we'd love to help you out. We do gutters and soft wash too. It's parishbuilt.com. Go to the website, fill out the form on the homepage. We'll be in touch same day. Parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com. Okay, y'all, it's after further review. In 20 minutes, we're going up to South Bend. We'll talk to Brian Driscoll about the Notre Dame commitment that LSU got today. LSU also projected to land a basketball commit as well that we'll talk about coming up after the top of the hour. I do want to give you my LSU fall camp takeaways and what to watch Saints-Rams. So we've got a ton to get to in hour number 3. Don't you move. Hour 3 of AFR coming up, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Love telling you about Hancock Whitney Bank, the official banking partner of the New Orleans Saints, the official banking partner of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. You know, I tell you every day that I am a card-carrying member of the Who Dat Nation, and you can be as well. I'm going to make sure I have my number covered up here, but I'll show you. There it is right there, so you know I'm not lying. I've got my money clip, and there is my Hancock Whitney Bank official debit card, my New Orleans Saints Hancock Whitney card. So I'm telling you, if you have ever, as long as I have had my checking account, I have been a Hancock Whitney. Hancock Whitney has been my bank. Thank you, Paul. I was wondering, I didn't know if you were going to be able to put it on the screen. I see it. Thank you. Hancock Whitney's been my bank. You'll love the relationship as well at Hancock Whitney. Go to hancockwhitney.com/Matt. They got more than 180 full-service financial centers, over 200 ATMs around the South. So when you're traveling this football season, remember, hancockwhitney.com/MATT.